Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Well, welcome, Deana, to the Awakened Goddess Show. I am really looking forward to our conversation today because the energy is just like off the charts. And we have with us today the Awakened Goddess. You know, she's hanging out here over on my right side. We picked up on that before we started, so we're just going to have her join us and co-create with us on this really cool conversation. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. And thank you, Awakened Goddess, for being here on your very first interview with us.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is super cool because, I've felt her presence before, but never during an interview like this. And for you guys that are listening and watching, Deana, picked up on it when we were kind of talking ahead of time and getting some clarity on where we want to take this conversation today. And she was like, hey, I'm feeling this energy, this presence next to you, and it really wants to be here. So we figure, hey, it's her show, the Awakened Goddess Show, so we're going to just have her join us.
Welcoming her on in.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, we are going to talk about how anything is possible. You are a person that works with energy on many different dimensions. And so I want to start by setting a little framework so people understand what this means, because really when we're talking about things outside of 3D, our minds have a hard time grasping it or understanding it. And for myself, I want to have a little bit more tangible understanding.
It is hard to get a little bit more of a tangible understanding because when we're working with energy that we can't necessarily see and hear, but can certainly sense and feel and perceive, there isn't always language to be able to communicate about that. So that's been my passion and my challenge at the same time, to actually bring it in a way that we can talk about it and we can have a conversation about it and we can experience it on a really tangible level, because the benefits are just, beyond. They're just beyond. And so we want people to start to be activated to the nature of the work and start to feel really comfortable with the possibilities surrounding that. So I work in an energetic hologram when I work one-on-one with a client. So if a client were to come to me with any kind of situation where they're wanting clarity, they're wanting to connect to their soul purpose, they're wanting to connect more deeply to what they came here to do. I do work with a lot of clients who have other kind of physical ailments or illness and things like that, because much of the physical presentations that we see in our own physical body have an energetic component or an energetic basis. And so then we work together to kind of identify what these things are, figure out where they came from, and how we're going to release them. And so that's done on a very multidimensional process, which is what's so fun about it, right? Because you have to let go of the mind's ability to want to hold on to something and grasp something and have something tangible, because only then are the possibilities limitless, right? So if I'm actually thinking or seeing or paying attention to something, it vanishes and disappears. Kind of like the old cartoons where the little cartoon guy runs off the cliff and he's running and then he looks down and there's nothing there and he falls.
Yeah.
That's my experience of working in an energetic hologram, because it's this, profound thing, and I get going and cruising, and we're, making all these shifts and making all these changes. But the minute my mind is present and the minute, I want to understand it or ask a question about it, then it's like, shoop, gone. So it is such a tricky thing to make tangible and talk about. But let's try it. Let's give it
Yeah.
a shot because
Yeah.
I think that there's big value in that too.
Right.
The dimensions that I work in are the different, I guess, layers would be a better term, or different levels of the energy system, as well as chakras and the hologram that I actually pull up off of the physical body so that I can make adjustments within the energetic blueprint of somebody, right? So if I pull up the hologram, and I see, okay, well, the heart is prioritizing. The heart's presenting as something that's needing some attention. So then I can go in, I can zoom in on the heart, and I can make, a physical human heart be as big as I want it to be. So I can start repairing things and restructuring things and removing things if things need to be removed, and then shrinking it back down, going inside of it, going outside of it, turning it all around, and then putting it back. But that's then restructured on 4 different layers within the energetic hologram. So that's kind of the multi-dimensional. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, we've got other people, other beings working on other parts of the energy. So it's that fine, subtle balance of sometimes I'm taking orders, sometimes I'm, giving orders, and we're all just kind of this fine-tuned, well-oiled machine working within different dimensions. So for example, I might be working on a heart and I get all done with the restructuring, and I put it back, I put the hologram back on the body, and then I might be called to work on the next part, or I might get a very clear, hang on, we're not done. And then somewhere in some other layer, some other level, something else is going on. And so all of those are kind of the intentions that my client and I set prior to the session starting. But it is this fine dance, right? When you're working in different layers of the energy system with other experts within the team, it's like an advanced surgical team who all has a part, and everybody has to kind of make sure that they're not interfering with others. And it's very beautiful work. But you have to be really attuned to the subtleties within that.
Yes. And what's coming to mind for me is I'm just curious how you learn to trust. How did you learn to trust your abilities? Because I believe that we're all energy beings. We all have the ability to be energy workers, energy healers. It's just how we decide to tune our skills, whatever we focus on, we're going to be able to do better. But there's a big piece about trust, and trusting that, for me, my mind gets in there, my ego is like, well, how do you know that's really working? Or, yeah, I can on one level imagine these things and think I'm doing something, but how do I know? I mean, that I'm not just making it up. So how did you go through that process of tapping into your abilities to do this and then stepping in and trusting?
This is the question, right? Because it's work in progress, and I think that that's something that is so tangible for me every day. That there's so many different levels and layers and pieces and parts of this work that it's not that I'm mastering how to trust; it's that I'm mastering how to trust here and here and here and here and here and here. So it's this really beautiful ebb and flow of trusting and being really aware of when I don't. So in order for me to do and bring in the work that's coming through in the way that feels really good to me, in the way that I know I can trust it, in the way that it's of the highest energetic vibration so that I feel really, really good about it, I have to be able to trust it 100%. 100%. I also have to be able to trust that before I do that work, I come into my body and I am aware of my energy and vibration of my own, such that I'm able to trust that awareness to be able to go and then interact with the work. Because when I'm working with people, there are intense energies that come up. And you experienced that today before the call, right? That we were just like, wow, there's some intense energy. And so in order for me to be able to bear witness to that and hold space for that, I had to, on a personal level, learn how to sit with intense human emotion and be okay with it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn how to sit in a room with a 65-year-old man sobbing. I had to learn how to sit in a room with a 25-year-old girl pointing her finger at me and being so furious, right? So that is one of the things that I've done on a personal level for many, many, many years is my own personal work to be able to show up in a way that don't scare me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
bring it. I'm so centered and anchored within myself. And that doesn't mean I don't get triggered myself, right? That doesn't mean that when I'm working with a client and they're going through something, emotionally excruciating, that it doesn't trigger that within me because I am a human being with another human being sharing this really beautiful experience. And so when that happens, then it's really important for me to, and I've done this many times in sessions to say, okay, I'm going to back off for a second. And then I just get really clear, okay, what's mine? What's not mine? What's my intention? What's our intention? What's the intention of the work that needs to come through? And then get back in the game. But any expert in any field is someone who notices the most minute subtleties. So if you have, 30 years of experience as a teacher, you know those kids really, really well. You don't have to make lesson plans. You do, but you don't have to write down every single detail. It just becomes second nature because you've learned that that is different than that, and that is different than that, and you've gone down from, the very contrasting differences to these very minute subtleties. And so I think that as I work with more clients and the work comes through and these conversations happen, right? These like leading edge conversations where you're asking me questions and I'm like, shoot, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me inquire. Let me find the answer to that because I don't know the answer. And so that's when the subtleties start to separate and become, really clear. And within that, then it's easier to trust when I can feel the difference of those things. And I'll give you a more tangible, concrete example because that was kind of our intention to like actually bring it down, right? So when I'm working in an energetic hologram, I can pull that energetic hologram off the body. I sit it up, and then if the client's actually experiencing physical pain, so the energy has manifested as a physical ailment or a physical symptom in the body, then I'll call that forth. So, and all my work with clients is confidential, so this is completely fabricated. But if I'm working with a client who has knee pain, then or has had knee surgery, I can pull the knee out. And if there's bone spurs or chips or the knee's not aligning right or the ligaments aren't right within the knee, I can zoom in and I can make all of those teeny tiny little adjustments. And the whole time that's happening, because I can't see it with my physical eyes, right? I can't feel it with my fingers. And that is how, as human beings, we're raised to see our experience and to touch our experience and to know our experience. So when those are completely gone and all you have is what you feel and those subtleties, like this feels good, this doesn't, this feels good, this doesn't, then it becomes that subtle balance. So I'll have the top of somebody's leg and the bottom of somebody's leg, and I'll try to fit them into where it feels, try to fit those together to where it feels right so that the knee clicks into place. And sometimes that takes me 5 or 10 minutes to actually just sit there and I'll start to feel myself getting frustrated, like, come on, come on, somebody help me out here. I can't see this. Like, but then that's when I back up, reground myself, recenter, refocus, and set that intention. And then go back in and just really feel the subtle differences and feel, okay, does it a minute shift this way? Nope, that doesn't feel right. A minute shift that way? Nope, that doesn't feel right. A minute shift that way and that way? Yep, and it clicks into place. And then you just start to know. But the process that got me to that was excruciatingly painful.
I was going to say, you have to be really comfortable sitting in discomfort and being vulnerable and allowing yourself to just feel uncomfortable.
Allowing myself to feel uncomfortable, yeah. And that's, I think, where my 14 years in the public school helped, because there is just a lot of situations where, kids come in hungry, kids come in sick, kids come in, heaven forbid, abused, and uncomfortable conversations have to be had, right? And so be with that work professionally, and then also with the work that I've done personally with those things, that is just part of it. To be able to hold space, you have to be able to show up in a place where the human aspect of things is is okay, is
Mm-hmm.
okay with me. Personally, though, on a personal level, how did I start trusting that? I didn't for decades of my life. And what I know about energy now and what I know based on my own experience is that the more that that's suppressed, the more that it doesn't want to be,
Yeah.
right? So the more that I pushed away that and the more I leaned on what I saw and what I heard and what I could touch around me, even when it didn't feel right, this knowing, this sense of, this gift now that I didn't see it as a gift then, kept coming up and hitting me in the face and trying to teach me these things and show me these things. And I very adamantly suppressed it for a really long time. And when there's that push and pull within you, then all of a sudden things start to really fall apart and that becomes the whole focus. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really had to trust that for as miserable as I was in my life, I wasn't doing something that needed to be done or something needed to shift or whatever it was that I was doing that got me there wasn't going to get me where I really wanted to be. And
Yeah.
so I trusted the fear actually, and I trusted the courage. So I started to get to this place where, okay, this feels better, but this feels scary. I usually do the things that feel better. So now I'm going to do the things that feel scary. And then now that I'm doing this thing that feels scary, what's the subtleties that I'm recognizing here? Where's my contrast here? What feels super scary and not right for me? And what feels really scary and is right for me?
Mm-hmm.
And start breaking those down. And then learning to trust that and learning to trust that I had all of the answers that I needed within me, inside me, like everybody does.
Right.
And that I had been trained to go without and trust science and math. And those are great things that, infuse our process. But at the end of the day, I have what's inside me. I don't have Google. I don't have Facebook. I don't have, I have what's inside me. And so that's where the shift really happened, that I had to start with that subtlety. Do I trust that? Do I trust this?
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to describe it because it definitely has a feeling about it. We all can tap into that and use that as a guide to know, okay, so I'm noticing something inside of my body. I'm
Yes.
noticing this feeling, this emotion, this pain, whatever it happens to be. And I think that is, that was a lesson that took me a long time to learn is using that and listening to that. And like you say, stop listening to everybody else
Mm-hmm.
because everybody else is speaking the truth for themselves,
Yes.
which may or may not be right for you. And, you can use it as a guide, but ultimately you are the person that has your answers, like you say.
Absolutely. So, a really cool, if you're willing, a really cool experiential thing that I do with a lot of my clients for this is to kind of get them in touch with that part of themselves. Because as women, particularly, many of the women that I worked with, and myself included, have experienced some form of trauma, some form of physical or emotional trauma that has, at whatever age it was, has allowed us to create this belief that being inside of our bodies isn't safe, right? And so many of the women I work with are incredibly intelligent women who live right about up here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. They're very compassionate women who live like from their heart up, right? Very compassionate, intelligent women. But when I ask them, "Can you feel your feet?" They'll say no. That. What do you mean, feel my feet? Well, are you in your body? Are you taking
Mm-hmm.
up space in your body? Because until we do that, if we're living in the outside world, if we're seeing things and touching things and experiencing things, but we're not really doing it from a place of inside of our body, it's really hard to hear our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to hear those teeny little whispers, because that's how they start. If we're living without, they're teeny little whispers and flashes of inspiration. But when we get in our body and when we're there and when we're fully present within it, then the voices become louder, and we're able to connect with them in different ways. And so one of the things that I think is a really good way for us to kind of experience that is to just really close your eyes, feel yourself in your chair. I always shake out my shoulders because you carry a lot of tension there. And then take a breath and then just say some high frequency words like yes, love, peace, joy. And as you do it, breathe and just feel where your energy goes and how it moves and what it feels like within your body. So you say yes, love, joy, gratitude, peace, ease, freedom. Where do you notice your energy is when you're saying those words? Where do you feel it most?
I feel it in my chest. It's like a moving upwards.
Yeah, it's expansive, right? It goes
Hmm.
up or it goes out. So now let's close our eyes again and notice the difference when we say no, anger, hatred, sadness, grief, anxiety. What happens to your energy then?
Definitely a constriction and a depression, like a
Right.
heaviness.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a very, very stark contrast, right? When you're
Hmm.
sitting there feeling expansive energy with high frequency words like love and gratefulness and appreciation, and then you can feel yourself contract with anxiety, fear, and the word no. So that's the way that I make the majority of my decisions about anything. So
Hmm.
I'll ask myself a question and then I'll answer yes. And if my energy feels expansive or if it feels contracted, then that's how I know my answer,
Hmm.
what I should do for that. So that's something that I think little kids are really good at, but as we grow up, we can make the list of pros and cons and we can train ourselves into thinking, well, if I don't do this, somebody might be upset with me. But
Right.
really, really, at the end of the day, what do we want? Might not be always what happens,
Hmm.
but it is important to know what it is that we want. And being in our body is the first way for us to trust that those answers are what's right for us.
Yeah, and I think that what you're saying is so important. And I can't help to think back when I was working with a coach many, many years ago, a therapist coach. And she would ask me a similar question, but she would ask me, "So, how are you feeling? How do you feel?" And I literally could not tell you or tell her
Mm-hmm.
how I felt. Like I'd have these sensations in my body, but I couldn't figure out what the feeling was. And it was this weirdest thing because I had that disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like someone chopped me in half right here.
Yep. And the thing too about that, it's such a common experience for women. But the thing too about that is that when we're not in our body, then our body is filled with stuff, right? Because there is no voids. If we're not taking up space in our body, something else is, right?
Hmm.
So back when I was not in my body was filled with low frequency energetic vibrations, and that was all kinds of stuff that I had collected and saved from growing up, like
Hmm.
the humiliated stuff I felt in middle school, and the confusion I felt being a little kid, knowing things that I had no way of knowing, and so all of those just kind of got stored within my body, and it became really crowded in there for me. So it wasn't safe. So then I just kind of evacuated it, right, and lived
Hmm.
up here in my head. And so then the work for me became, how do I create the space in my body to come back into it? Because it's not always just a matter of getting in your body if there's no room for you in your body, right? Because we're these unlimited beings and we're kind of like squeezed down into this little teeny. It's like the Aladdin movie with the genie and the lamp, you know? It's
Yeah.
like you open the little lid and he's like, hi there. But that's kind of what it feels like sometimes if we're this giant, big, expansive being who came here with this huge soul purpose, like this
Hmm.
this thing that we're here to do to shine our light on the world, and we're doing it all in this little tiny body. Well, that means then that we don't have a whole lot of time or a whole lot of space to be keeping this stuff that holds us back, that feels really heavy. And so a lot of the work then that I do too within that energetic hologram is removing these low frequency energy packages. And that's the stuff that kind of, puts glitches within our energy system.
Hmm.
So when I'm working with a client, for example, and they're talking about something that makes them nervous and they laugh, right? So to me, that's an indication that we've got wires crossed, because when you're nervous, the equivalent emotional response for that feeling isn't laughter. Generally it's to feel
Right.
anxious and nervous and a little bit of fear. So when those wires get crossed, it's because there's things all crammed up and packed in there, and so then we need to move that out and create that space and let that energy flow in the way that it needs to, through the different layers and the different chakras and things like that.
So I'm curious then, when you're working in this holographic field, because our energy is not 3D. Our
Correct.
bodies are 3D, but our spirits, our souls, our energy
Mm-hmm.
is other dimensional.
That's how I
Multi
see it. Yeah.
multidimensional, much larger than ourselves. So, um, you talked about a lot about like working the body itself.
Hmm.
But when you're talking about things like, say, manifesting a relationship or manifesting money, how do you work in that field?
Mm, that's a juicy question. I'm so glad you asked that. So, oh, this is such a good one. How do we want to approach it? I think right now with so much, light and attention being brought to the law of attraction, it's a really valid question. Like, how do we manifest the things that we're wanting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's people who do incredible work with law of attraction and how to get your mind right and how to, set these intentions that bring this stuff to you. And the way that I'm seeing this, unfold for me personally, but also for the clients that I work with, is that if the energy behind those intentions and behind that, that law of attraction stuff is all wonky,
Yeah.
it's you can keep wishing and hoping and be frustrated that it doesn't show up. So there is a lot of alignment that happens, energetically when I come into a session with my clients, and the the speed of which that happens is really up to them, right? How much are they willing to release? How much are they willing to allow? How much are they willing to trust? And how much do they want to stay stuck in that same old pattern, kind of, bumping into those same themes? So a lot of the work then becomes what the way that I see energy and the way that I work with it is that the energy from the outside comes in and compresses into the physical body. And so it needs to go back out in that same way. And so the way that I see it then when we're working with it and the way I'm guided to work with it is that we remove the gunk on the outside layers, right? So remove it all so that then the outside layers are crisp and clean. Then the stuff that needs to bubble up from inside that, didn't have space because it's compressed down into the body can now bubble up into those layers. And then they can be released. So that can be released in a session with me, or clients can do that on their own. I provide them tools afterwards so that they can keep doing that. Because it's kind of like when you drop a bag of flour in your kitchen. You drop a bag of flour in your kitchen and it explodes all over. It just kind of poofs everywhere, right? And you've got like the big bag and the big pile of flour on the floor, and you sweep it all up and you kind of mop up the counters and everything. But you come in 2 days later and there's flour settled back all over the counter and all over the sink. So you have to keep doing that for a couple days until things start to, okay, the flour's pretty much disappeared, right? So there's that first step of really clearing out the backlog of energetic gunk that we're holding on into our systems,
And
because
that's probably a lot
it's
of
a
crap.
lot. It is. It is, because we aren't taught how to do that as
Yeah.
kids. Growing up, so many of the messages that I hear at the end of the school day, I will hear so many parents say, "What is your problem?" Or "Come on, get in the car. You don't have anything to be sad about. Grab your paper. Let's." So, and I'm a mom too, and I'm certainly not slamming parents, but it's that lack of awareness that we have with those messages that we're giving to our kids. When my daughter was 2 and she would throw those temper tantrums, it used to make me so frustrated. But now energetically, I see that she had something that was something energetically that was in her body, and she knew it didn't belong there. And so she was trying to release that energy, and a tantrum was a way to do that. And so it's, as kids growing up, we don't always learn how to release these things in really positive ways. And so, yeah, then it is compressed in our body and there's a giant backlog. So once we start working on that backlog, then we can actually see, okay, now there you are. There you are. There's your soul. There's your soul purpose. There's your higher self. There's the work that you came here to do. What do we want to do with this? There's some course correction and some setting of intentions and clarity of purpose, because that's a big thing too. If people are wanting to manifest things in their life, a lot of times they do it from a place of what they don't want. They might say what they want, but there's also that energy behind it of, I don't want this. And so even if we say, I want this, and the energy is still present of, I don't want that, that's what we need to remove and release so that the focus can then really be on, where are we headed? So a lot of that stuff is what lives out in the layers of energy around our body that we can go in and focus on and get really specific on.
Yeah, so okay, so in a circumstance where, going back to the relationship or money piece, those both have a lot of energy around them. And say, you've wanted something for a long time. You've been
Mhm.
doing all of the law of attraction work. You think you're doing everything right, but you're still not manifesting. So you have that, there's a disconnect, or like you say, there's a cross wires that are crossed.
Mhm.
So then you say we can do something on our own. So what would that be?
So, a lot of what I teach my clients to do, the tools that they take away from us, from our session together, is one, how to be in their body,
Mm-hmm.
two, how to support their body with awareness and breathing, and um, beginning to be aware of what kind of energy they're bringing into a space. Because what we're wanting to do is look at energetic maintenance throughout our day, right? We don't just want to say, okay, right now I'm going to go in and I'm going to release, 5 packages of low frequency energy because then I'll feel better and then I'll manifest the person I want. So if it works that way,
Right.
it'd be great.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like it is in a sense like going to the gym where you can go and get your good workout in. But if you go home and eat a bag of chips for the rest of the day, it's not, it's kind of counterproductive. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to help clients see is this, ongoing consistent maintenance of, energetic hygiene, and how do you approach your day, and how do you approach your thoughts, and being aware of your thoughts. So those are all kinds of awareness things that we do. And then one of the practices that I teach them is how to connect into earth energy, the energy of the ethers, bring it all in and really expand their energy out. Because just as we want to be in our bodies and have our bodies take up space, we also want our energy to be expansive and take up space.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you were doing the experiential, the feeling of the yes, where it felt expansive, and the feeling of the no, where it felt very constricted, if we are focused on manifesting things into our life from a very constricted place of not wanting, not feeling deserving, having limiting beliefs about these kinds of things, like I really want, but I'll never be able to, or
Mm-hmm.
the I'm not good enough stuff, then it's really, really tricky for that to be turned around and shifted with our energy constricted. So when the energy is expanded and when we're really aware of the expansiveness of that energy, those things are no longer big giant boulders. They're like teeny little buzzing flies. And so when our energy is big and these are teeny tiny little buzzing flies, well, then it's easier to kind of remove them from the system and have it not be our primary focus. We can then see, okay, yeah, I do have feelings of not being good enough. Okay, yeah, I do have this. There is a limiting belief there. Yep, I never have had a relationship that I felt very sturdy in. But here's all this other high frequency good stuff as well. So that's where the gratitude comes in and the happiness comes in. And it's a reshifting of the focus
Mm-hmm.
and allowing that to come in to kind of displace some of that other energy.
Yeah. So it sounds like an up-leveling process. Like you're kind of taking steps with your energy, raising your frequency, and then maintaining it in a way.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. So many people who are doing very similar work to this use different words and different analogies to describe it. And one of the ones that seems really beneficial to me, and my clients seem to really get it too, is this whole idea of energy packages. So these experiences that we have and these emotions that we have, everything's made of energy, right? Mm-hmm. The table that we're on, and some of it we can see, but some of it we can't, like the Wi-Fi connection. Like we're connected by Wi-Fi. I don't know how it works. I don't know. I know when it doesn't work. Yeah, we're just grateful that it works. And so that's a lot of, how this then works too, that you just really want to start to allow the grateful energy to come in, and then package up the lower frequency energy packages and allow them to be removed from the system. So when we were talking before about the wires get crossed, and we're talking to somebody who's sad about something and they laugh, or anxious about something and they laugh, there's some kind of energy package that is upsetting that connection and that frequency. So when we can go in and target that, either me working with a client or them themselves, we can go in and target that and we can remove it. Or if it's something really deep rooted across past lifetimes, then we allow it to become fully present and then feel it fully so that it can then be removed. Mm-hmm. So it's an ongoing process of because we're human beings and we're getting more energy packages every day, right? We go to work and somebody cuts us off in the parking lot, or we go to the grocery store and they don't make my favorite kind of pizza anymore, whatever the case may be. Those energy packages come into our system. So it's the awareness of letting those things go as they come in, but then also working on that backlog so that things feel more manageable. And the end goal then is to like if we look at it as a teeter-totter or a seesaw of the high frequency energy on this side and the low frequency energy on this side, if we have more low frequency energy in our system, we're kind of heavy and we're stuck and we're feeling really sluggish. If we turn the scales, if we release some of that low frequency energy and kind of tip the scales to that really high frequency energy is most prevalent in our system, that's when the manifestation happens. That's when the good stuff starts coming in. Because what we know about law of attraction is that like attracts like. And thoughts create things. And so our dominant thoughts might be, I want to mate, but we still have the energy packages and the limiting beliefs and the other thoughts that are back there that are preventing that from attracting. We could attract somebody that isn't very good to us, right? If we've got some high energetic thoughts and some low energetic thoughts, we're probably going to attract somebody that wouldn't be a good fit for us.
A mediocre match.
A mediocre match. Or, I'm a child of the 80s, so TLC would call them scrubs. I don't want no scrubs. So that would be what we would want to do, is to release those lower energetic frequencies so that we could actually attract the person that we want, the person that would be a good match for us energetically when we're vibrating at that level.
Yeah, and as you're talking about this, it's really helping me become more aware of, because I'm one of those people that when I am uncomfortable, I will laugh. I'll have that little giggle or whatever. More so in the past, but it's interesting how I can think about the things that I want to manifest, but then I can also feel that frequency, that lower vibration that is in contrast.
Yes.
So as we're talking about that, I'm becoming more acutely aware of how that is flowing.
And how that plays out. Yeah. So this is another really good experiential one, because a lot of the circles that I run in are female entrepreneurs, and we talk about making money and getting clients and that kind of thing. And so I'll see a lot of things on Facebook, like I'm trying to manifest 10 new clients this month, or I'm trying to have a 5-figure launch or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when those people then come to me and we work one-on-one together, I'll say to them, okay, so tell me, I believe I'm going to have a 5-figure launch next month. Just say the words. Never figured out how that works, but I just can't make it look like that. But then when I get home and I have, something funky going on and something's not quite right, I can trim that up myself. Or, some of my friends color their hair, so they touch up their roots on their own. But then we have a sense where we're like, okay, I need to go get my hair cut. It's too out of control. It's time. When you call and you're like, I need an appointment yesterday. Do you have anything yesterday? Because I'm to that point. Yeah. And so that's where a lot of my clients come to me, is they needed that appointment yesterday, right? They've got all this stuff. They're not really sure what it is, and they're really ripe and ready to be rid of it. And so our work together is to clear most of that out so they feel some relief, they feel some sturdiness, they feel some solidness, and then can start to gain that awareness and have that perspective of what feels right to them. And so then that begins the multidimensionality of our collaborative work together, is that when the energetic hologram is pulled up, they're doing work on their own. They're doing a lot of this clearing and stuff on their own. They're helping me orchestrate their team, and it's really beautiful stuff.
So there's a little question that I want to ask. It's because since twice you've brought up something that It's like ding. Okay, so you talk about the team,
Hmm.
and just a little bit ago you talked about tantrums. And I'm wondering, I know you had a a little tantrum with your team the other
I did.
I
I
would
did.
I would love to hear about this tantrum and what led up to it and what manifested in result.
Oh, this is great. Okay. I haven't actually talked to anybody about this other than that post that you saw in the group, which was a super vulnerable share.
Yes.
And um,
Well, because the reason why I'm asking you this and people that are watching and listening, I'm not just doing it to like make you feel vulnerable and divulge all this, but it's that us people that we've done years of energy work.
mhm.
We're on the cutting edge. We still have our crap too. We have
Oh,
to
for
deal.
sure. Well, I'll tell you about two. If you want to talk about my
Okay.
hissy fits, I've had two recently.
Okay.
And this is just, I am so committed to being here in my blue jean and laundry life, right? Like that's what I call it because it is incredibly mind blowing for me to be working in different dimensions, having these miraculous healing experiences with my clients. And then it's like I have a puppy and she peed all over the floor while I was in a session. So then I'm in, on paper towels with 409 squirt. And so actually, having these moments where it can be very tricky to shift between those two places or
Mm-hmm.
many more than that. And so the work that I do and the way that I am kind of assimilating it and integrating it within me, because it isn't of me, but it comes through me. And so I'm trying to honor that and figure out how I fit and how I don't, and, what is mine and what isn't, and what responsibility do I have and what do I need to allow. And so in a session then it can become really tricky, this dance and this balance that, I had mentioned of, is this my allowing time or is this my acting time? Is this when I'm taking orders or is this when I need to exert my free will? Because we all have that, right? And so I am just finally emerging from an 11-month cocoon shell, like buried under a rock of creation, where all of this stuff was just coming in through hard and heavy. I'm sitting with my laptop, like I swear it's my other lover. I just my
I'm one
husband
of
would
those
never
too.
see him. It's just like me and my laptop. Hey, I'm with my laptop tonight. And so 11 months of that, right? And it was all allowing and it was all trusting and it was trusting a timeline that I couldn't quite nail down. And it was doing prototype after prototype after prototype of the work. So I bring this work in and then see, okay, great. That isn't exactly how it needs to be brought in. So I scrap it. Luckily I'm a Scorpio, so it was manageable. But the problem with that was it's after 11 months of it, I was like, all right.
Yeah, let's get with it.
Entering into negotiations now because Deana ain't happy. And that is not okay because in order for me to bring in the work in the way that I want to, my energetic vibration needs to be very high, or I can't interpret it and translate it in the way that feels right to me and in the way the information wants to come through. So my first hissy fit was probably 3 months ago. And it's not that I've never had them before, but these were two geared specifically towards my team. It was snowy. I live in Michigan. It was winter. We had just gotten this new puppy, sweet little thing, so cute, peeing all over the floor everywhere. And she went outside to go to the bathroom. I didn't put the leash on her because she'd always just followed me around, so cute. And that was the day that she decided to take laps around the house, and I couldn't catch her. And I was late for work. And you know how the morning's just totally shot. Like the coffee spills and the backpack falls, and it's just like a total disaster. And she wouldn't come. And I was just so frustrated because I had all of this stuff that I could feel coming through, and I couldn't honor it at that moment. I had to honor this life. That was what I felt like. Like, I want to be doing this because I know this is important. I have to honor this life. I have to be here. I have a puppy running around the backyard, and I have to go, drop my daughter off at school. And so I stomped my foot, and the heel of my boot shattered to smithereens. And the poor puppy, it was just a disaster. Then I'm left with feelings of guilt and shame and fear. But the takeaway, I think, is that we're all human beings. And, as moms and as females and as entrepreneurs and as humans in general, it's so easy to look at somebody else and think they have it together and to feel like I should have it together and I don't. And so I had that moment of like, okay, if I'm bringing in this high level work, Deana, why are you getting so mad that you're smashing your heel to smithereens? Like, that's not okay. But then when I was able to kind of, remove the judgment and actually see what it was, I could recognize, okay, I'm feeling pressured. I'm feeling split between these two very important things. And what do I want? Like, am I, do I have to just kind of allow all of this to come in at your timeline? Or can I say, no, you hold on to that. I've got things to do. Like, I'm here with my daughter. I'm here chasing a puppy around. If you want me to bring that in and make my dog mine and stop peeing on the floor. So that was one of them. And we went into negotiations about that, where I basically said, the way that this information is coming into me, fast and furious, we need to come up with a different plan. Like, it was giant downloads, and I wanted more like DVR. I wanted to pause. I wanted to rewind. I wanted to do it at a pace that felt right to me. So after my hissy fit there, what I realized was it was just me bringing up those low level vibrations, those low frequency vibrations that I had been pushing down as I was allowing, right? So it's the allowing thing, and then what's behind it. I wasn't really allowing, I was allowing. It's very different. And so that stuff kind of reared its ugly head so that I could see what was actually going on. So then, of course, I get my energy work done as well. I think it's really important. Worked on that stuff, feeling better. Okay, fast forward 3 months later, same kind of thing happened again, a little bit, different situation and circumstance, but I still felt like, okay, I'm bringing all this stuff in the way that you're wanting, but the timeline's off, and then you shift it on me, and it's coming in different pieces and parts, and I gave up. I'm done. And so I threw out an ultimatum, and that's not typically my personality, but I had just got to that point where, all right, I'm taking care of you guys. Like, you're running me ragged. I'm doing so much intensive personal development, so much intensive professional development, and bringing all this stuff through because I believe in it. But if you're going to make this so hard for me, then find somebody else to do it, because I'm done. If these are the terms of the agreement, if this is the way that it's going to shake out, I'm done. And I was so like set on that. I was so set on that part being heard and that part being, presenced, that it wasn't until later that I was like, well, what else would I do? I don't even know what else I would do. But I said, show me a miracle. Damn it. Show me a miracle. You guys are the suckiest team on the planet. I'm so miserable. Show me a miracle. You have 24 hours. I have been doing all this stuff. That's the least you can do. And I just left it. I walked away, I left it, I felt clear, I felt connected, I felt fine, and I felt very adamant that I have a say in this. This isn't something done to me. I do have a say in this. And so then my miracle showed up about 2 hours later in a form of a text message from my sister giving me some really, really good news we'd been hoping for. So I think the takeaway from it for me, and I know this intense human emotion, right, activates and triggers other things within people. So I would encourage, you and the listeners as well to kind of really check in with themselves and your energy in your body and see, what is this triggering within me? But for me, it was a stand that I needed to take to be fully in my power. It was something that I needed to say, and something that I needed to presence, and something that I needed to adamantly be in my power and in a sense defend myself about, because I want to be happy and I want to live from this high vibration place, in this pure high vibration place. And in order for me to do that, I need to have all of these things presenced, and I wasn't presencing them. So I did. And that's the good thing about the teams that we work with, right? Like our guides and whatever it is that you want to call it. They want to know those things. Like that's helpful. That helps the connection be more clear and more smooth. And it is for our highest good. And so it ended up working out great, but it was a rough couple of hours.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was funny when you had posted this online, like you had to come back and clarify that you were talking about your spirit team, not like a physical team, like work team.
Yeah, somebody did that for me because people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you talked to your, team of VAs like that or something." I was like, "No. This is about my team." So deleted that.
Okay, so that brings up something. Maybe that's why the awakened goddess is here, because that is the same conversation I'd like to have with her,
Yeah.
because it's like this show um, is from the highest intention,
Hmm.
and I have cleared the way, and this is what I do. And it seems very almost there's a lot of one way, like it's putting out, but the like it's not coming back. So it's like, hey, now I need support
Hmm.
in various ways to, because I do have a vision. I have a vision for how the show is going to grow and expand. However, there are limitations in the 3D world
Yep.
because, and
Hmm.
so what would you say to that?
Well, I can speak to my personal experience with that as well as a lot of the clients that I've worked with. But we have receiving issues, generally speaking, right? That
Mm-hmm.
our energy is forward focused in the doing, in the giving, in the being, in the, allowing, because sometimes that still is, if we're not able to receive, sometimes the allowing is still a forward, focused energy for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So in those times where I'm noticing that, my word for it is lack of abundance, lack of time, lack of replenishment on
Mm-hmm.
some level,
Mm-hmm.
I again will check in with my energy and notice that then it's always forward facing.
Yes.
So energetically, the way that things work, the way that I see the work is the receiving comes in through the back chakras because our chakras
Mm.
go like, I don't know if I can, like that.
Okay.
There's like cones from the front, cones from the back, all the way down. And so the receiving comes in from the back, and the forcing and doing and that kind of thing, creating comes from the front. And so in order for me, when I'm in creation mode, if I am not very, very intentionally checking in on the replenishment and the receiving that's coming through the back of my energy system, I will notice myself start to get hunched over my laptop. I will
Mm.
notice my shoulders start to ache. I will notice, my energy feeling constricted. And then when I stand up, I'm a little bit irritable. Well, of course I am, because I've just given all of my energy to creation. And what's there for me? Not a whole lot.
Right.
So it's this pattern that we've kind of, I personally had developed, and a lot of the people that I work with had developed. And so it then becomes something energetic and awareness that can be course corrected. So when I envision my energy as kind of a bubble that goes around me 360 degrees, right? A big sphere. Really checking in with that and, pushing it out when we want to be expansive and making sure that it's balanced right to left, balancing our masculine and feminine energies, and then balanced front to back,
Mm.
balancing our giving and receiving energies as well. And so sometimes it's just that easy that I can realign myself and okay, now I'm being replenished. Now I'm feeling like I can create. But it is something that then also has other energetic components. So probably tied to limiting beliefs, probably tied to, patterns. We can also unknowingly pick up stuff from our caretakers as we were growing up. So,
Mm-hmm.
if parents have money issues, then, well, thanks mom, thanks
Yeah.
dad. They become ours now. And certainly they don't, give them to us consciously or intentionally. But that's the nature of the way a lot of my clients come to me. They have a lot of these cultural beliefs or past life things that they're holding on to, which affects that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some people will say, well, can you, if I throw a hissy fit and demand something from my team, then I should just get it because I've done that before, it doesn't show up,
Yeah.
right? And so and people have been asking me that. So I've really kind of been getting clear with myself on what was different about this hissy fit, because it wasn't just I'm in here doing all this work and I'm broke kind of hissy fit. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, I got nothing left for you kind of hissy fit. And so my intention for myself is to never let it get that bad again. I want to be able to catch it before I'm that frustrated. So that's where the energetic maintenance, the daily maintenance comes in. And I
Mm-hmm.
have intentional practices I do before I sit down to create or before I sit down to work on my business. And I intentionally call in what I want to receive. Like even if a friend, invites me and says, "Hey, let's go get, petties. I want to buy you a petty." I'm always like, "No, no, I'll do it. Like I'll go with you, but I want to pay for my own."
Mm.
What would be the problem of allowing her to do something that felt giving so that I could, be in the state of receiving? So that's something that I'm working on personally with my family and within my business and things like that too. So if we're demanding our spirit team to give us stuff that we want, we also have to check in with ourselves if we're able to receive it.
Mm. Yeah, that's so important because isn't it true that really everything we want and need is really right here energetically. It's available to us already, and there's just some sort of misalignment, and that's why it's not coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the pictures I draw in the universal language of stick people, right? I draw a stick person and then all these black balls of the energy packages around. And then the thing that you want, the abundance, which is a general term I use for money, love, pretty much anything that would make you feel happy, the happiness that you're seeking is that. And so it's there, it's all around us, just like you said. But why aren't we experiencing it? Why aren't we receiving it? Why isn't
Mm-hmm.
it coming to us? It can be a lot of different reasons, but one that I see pretty commonly that's also pretty easy to explain and to visualize is having you or a little stick person with all of these, black basketballs around your energy system. So if you have, 20 basketballs blocking your abundance, well, of course it's not going to come in. Like it can't weave its way through and it might come in the
Yeah.
form of like $10 from your grandma. But if you're really wanting, you know, the flow of abundance to come in, we have to clear the pathway. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an energy thing. That's an energy thing. Clearing the path, releasing those energy packages, doing the work within our belief system and the other, energetic pieces of that, the receiving piece, so that when that's there, we can experience it. Because if we start to think, how many times have we wanted something that comes to us and then it disappears, or it's not what we thought it would be, or
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't quite work out the way that we had hoped it would? That's energy too, because yeah, we're calling it in, but something got a little wonky and we weren't able to receive it in the way that we had originally called it in. That's
Yeah.
energy.
Or those times when you just randomly say, "Oh, I would love to have X, Y, or Z. I'd love to have a cup of coffee today," and
Yeah.
then somebody just buys you one, and it just shows up like
Yep.
that.
And then how do you receive it? Like how do you receive it? Can you actually energy responds really well to intention and imagery. So when we're talking about receiving, when we're talking about energy, we can sense these energy packages and vacuum them out, right? We
Mm-hmm.
can pop them in a bubble and let the bubble go. We can, if the energy package is a particularly stubborn, hard one, maybe you want to, hit it with a sledgehammer and it just, vanishes to dust. So those are ways to remove the energy packages. But then if we're wanting to receive something in, if somebody gives me a cup of coffee, I want to envision like the abundance just flowing in through the back of my energy system. Just like, yes, it's a cup of coffee. Yes, I drink it. Yes, I enjoy it. Yes, I give gratitude. But the missing step then is are you actually envisioning? Are you actually intending the energy of that abundance to come into your system to replenish you? Right? Do you see
Hmm.
the shift? Do you see how it's different? Like if
No,
I,
can you explain it more?
yeah,
Because that I've never heard that before.
yeah. So if I give you a cup of coffee, right? Like I see you on the street and I see you going to the coffee shop and I am in front of you in line and I pay for your coffee. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get to the counter and you're like, oh, that person ahead of you just paid for your coffee. You're like, great, that's so nice. That would be my, like, what
Yeah,
would you say?
yeah. Oh, I'd be really thrilled. Oh, yeah. How exciting.
And you take a drink of it and you'd go to work and you'd be like, oh, this, the lady in front of me, she bought my coffee. Isn't that so nice?
Yeah.
But you're drinking the coffee and you're giving gratitude for it from the front. Do you see? Like I'm from the front.
Mm-hmm.
But are you actually setting the intention of the energy of receiving the gratitude and the abundance of the universe? Are you actually setting the intention to envision that coming into your energy system from the
Mm.
back? Are you actually allowing the gift of that abundance to come in to your energy? Yes, you're drinking the coffee. Yes, you feel grateful for it. But there's a feeling
Yes.
piece, a different layer that I think many times we miss.
Yeah, I have, like I said, I've never heard that before, and I've never done that.
Yeah, so and it makes the coffee taste better.
Ah, I'm gonna
It
have to
does. It
try
makes
that.
it makes everything more sweet when you can actually receive. And it can be on a small level, not small, certainly, but different levels too. So, like when my daughter comes to give me a hug, she runs home, every day she gets off the bus, she runs to see me every day. And I'm always like, oh, she's running to see me. And then the other day I was like, I'm going to receive this gift because she's the only kid out of, 12 kids in our neighborhood that runs to greet their mom. Like, I
That's
want to
special.
receive that,
Yeah.
right? And so I actually just received the abundance of watching her run to me and watching her be that excited to see me and just receive that fully from the back into the energy system. That hug was so much sweeter.
Mm,
So much sweeter. So just that really juicy, rich, raw humanness of
yeah.
what does it feel like to really enjoy and receive fully the abundance that's all around us. And once we get practiced at that, that also starts clearing the pathway for more stuff to come in.
Yeah. I'm really excited to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I definitely, receiving has been a challenge for me. It definitely brings up those lower frequencies
hmm
and feeling uncomfortable. And so, um, yeah, I'm going to try that.
And the thing that I'd like to leave everybody with is that the power that you hold for living the life that you want to live, for connecting with your soul purpose, and for really, standing in your power is to go within and to find it there. The answers aren't with other people, the answers aren't without, but it's actually your own experience and what you do experience within yourself. That's where all your answers lie, and to trust that.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Well, oh my gosh, like I said, this was an incredible conversation and it was so much fun to chat with you and kind of stretch those edges and I took away a lot from this conversation. I can't wait to really practice that receiving piece more because I as you were talking, I quickly could tune in and I definitely feel like I'm really out of balance. The back chakra area is just like practically sealed to my back. So,
But that's so cool that you're doing multidimensional energy work on yourself right now, like bringing that level of awareness to a conversation. Like that's advanced level stuff.
well, thank
So
you.
good for you. And I want to thank you for having me and for, providing a platform for people to be activated and to really start to look at these possibilities and to see what those kinds of things can hold for them. So thank you for your
Yes.
work.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.